Ave Maria, and welcome to Divine Poetry, a series that explores the chronological parallels between the history of the Catholic Church and the Old Testament. If you're new to this concept, go back and watch my interview with Kevin Davis. The link is in the video description below. To make things more simple, I have divided up church history and the Old Testament into 8 color-coded time periods. Below you can see a scrolling bar with the names, dates, and the Old Testament books for each period. Use this timeline to guide you in each video. The color frame of each video will match the time period that we're discussing. Now, let's start today's episode. Hello, and welcome to episode 15 of Divine Poetry. So today's episode is a continuation of our series for the month of May, where Our Lady is presented as the new Ark of the Covenant. In church history, Our Lady appeared many times, glorious apparitions from heaven, such as Rue de Bach, Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal, Our Lady of Lourdes, Our Lady of La Salette, and so many others. So it seems, and it's almost like I'm convinced 100% that when Our Lady appeared in church history, all these very unique circumstances that accompanied her apparitions, for instance, at Lourdes, she appeared in a cave, or La Salette, she was weeping and weeping profusely. Anyway, those specific characteristics and the context in which those apparitions happened, they have parallels in the Old Testament with specific stories of the Ark of the Covenant. So it's glorious when you see it. Today, I want to present Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal in Rue de Bach, which was an apparition of Our Lady to St. Catherine de Laboure in the year 1830, and how that mirrors in incredible ways the story of the little boy Samuel when he slept before the Ark of the Covenant in the book of 1 Kings. Before we start, though, I always have an announcement, so might as well keep up the tradition. For the last, I want to say, month or two, my wife and I have been scanning old Catholic books that have gone out of copyright, and our intention is to reformat them and to have them printed again. So my wife has been working on a book called A Year with the Saints. You might also know it under the name Cultivating Virtue. So it's out of copyright, and that's one of the books that we're going to be reprinting. We want to do scads and scads of old books. And we're going to start a Catholic publishing website company. So we'll call it gloriousheritagebooks.com. We reserve the domain name. We haven't developed the website yet, but that won't take that long. So, of course, we'll sell those books there. And, of course, the books that I write, I'm actually writing another book now that just kind of started. I'm about a tenth of the way through it. And we also hope to publish some other books, but I don't want to announce them yet until I know for sure that we'll be able to do so. But I'm really excited to be publishing these books. So I'll leave it at that. Okay, so let's go for today. I have 2 Old Testament stories to read. The story of Samuel as he's before the ark, and then he's woken up in the middle of the night. And then also the following stories of how the ark is stolen from the Israelites by the Philistines, and then how the ark goes around Philistia and then causes plagues and curses upon them. So I have some reading to do, so excuse me, I'm going to get going on this. This is going to be the story from Samuel when he's a little boy. If you remember, by the way, he was given to the high priest Eli by his mother, Hannah, in thanksgiving for God hearing her prayers to have a son. And so now he's at the service of the high priest it's not the temple yet, because they didn't build a temple in Israel at this point, but it's that tent they have. It's a movable kind of temple. I forget what they call it, the tent of meeting. I can't remember exactly, but I'll try to put the name of it on the screen. Okay. Now, the child Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli, and the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no manifest vision. And it came to pass one day when Eli lay in his place, and his eyes were grown dim, that he could not see. Before the lamp of God went out, Samuel slept in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. And the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, Here am I. And he ran to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. He said, I did not. Go back to sleep. And he went back to sleep. And the Lord called Samuel again. And Samuel arose and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou called me. He answered, I did not call thee, my son. Return and sleep. Now Samuel did not know the Lord, neither had the word of the Lord been revealed to him. And the Lord called Samuel again a third time. And he arose up and went to Eli and said, Here am I, for thou didst call me. And Eli understood that the Lord called the child. And he said to Samuel, Go and sleep, for if he call thee again any more, thou shalt say, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. So Samuel went and slept in his place. And the Lord came and stood, and he called. And he called the other time, as he called the other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel said, Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. And the Lord said to Samuel, Behold, I do a thing in Israel, and whosoever shall hear it, both his ears shall tingle. In that day I will rise up against Eli all the things I have spoken concerning his house. I will begin, and I will make an end. For I have foretold unto him that I will judge his house forever for iniquity, because he knew that his sons did wickedly, and did not chastise them. Therefore have I sworn to the house of Eli, that the iniquity of his house shall not be expiated with victims nor offerings forever. And Samuel slept till morning, and opened the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel feared to tell the vision to Eli. Then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he answered, Here am I. And he asked him, What is the word that the Lord hath spoken to thee? I beseech thee, hide it not from me. May God do so and so to thee, and add so and so, if thou hide from me one word of all that was said to thee. So Samuel told him all the words, and did not hide them from him. And he answered it is the Lord. Let him do what is good in his sight. And Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and not one of the words fell to the ground. Okay, so just to recap that, Samuel is a little boy sleeping next to the Ark of the Covenant, and then the Eli, the high priest, was presumably in his own right was a just and good high priest, but he let his sons get away with murder, I think literally. And so God is punishing the house of Eli and taking away the office of the high priest from them, and he's going to give it to another one. Okay, so then very shortly, I'm going to skip a lot. I could read so much more of the story, but for brevity's sake, I'm just going to kind of skip it and summarize it for you as I do. So then the Philistines attack, and Eli and Hophni and Phinehas, which are Eli's sons, take the Ark of the Covenant into battle, and it's lost. They lost the Ark of the Covenant to the enemy. Now here's what happens to the Philistines once they have the Ark. And the hand of the Lord was heavy upon the Azotians. Now the Azotians are one of the cities, I believe, of the Philistines. So there's a sub-branch of the Philistines. They're part of the Philistine clans. And he destroyed them, and he afflicted Azotus and the coast thereof with emeroids. Emeroids, I believe, are hemorrhoids. So they had a very unfortunate curse upon them. And the villages and the fields in the midst of the country, there came forth a multitude of mice, and there was the confusion of a great mortality in the city. And the men of Azotus, seeing this kind of plague, said, The ark of the God of Israel shall not stay with us, for his hand is heavy upon us, and upon Dagon our God. And sending, they gathered together all the lords of the Philistines to them, and said, What shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel? And the Getherites answered, Let the ark of the God of Israel be carried about. And they carried the ark of the God of Israel about. And while they were carrying it about, the band of the Lord came upon every city with an exceeding great slaughter. And he smote the men of every city, both small and great. And they had hemorrhoids in their secret parts. And the Getherites consulted together and made themselves seats of skins. Therefore they sent to the ark of the God to Acheron. And when the ark of God was come into Acheron, the Acheronites cried out, saying, They have brought the ark of the God of Israel to us to kill us and our people. They sent therefore and gathered together all the lords of the Philistines, and they said, Send away the ark of the God of Israel, and let it return into its own place, and not kill us and our people. For there was a fear of death in every city, and the hand of God was exceedingly heavy. The men also that did not die, were afflicted with hemorrhoids, and they cried. Every city went up, and the cry of every city went up to heaven. And then it says, I'm skipping some parts, but it says that the ark stayed in Philistia for 7 months, and it went on killing everywhere that it went. It sent death, plagues, and curses to all of the Philistines wherever it passed. So the Philistines decided, therefore, to send the ark of the God of Israel back to Israel. Of course they would, but they didn't do it alone. They made little metal castings or statues of the plagues they received from the ark. I'll read that passage very quickly, and then I'm almost done reading. According to the number of the provinces of the Philistines, you shall make 5 golden emeroids and 5 golden mice. For the same plague hath been upon you all, and upon your lords. And you shall make the likeness of your emeroids and the likeness of mice that have destroyed the land. And you shall give the glory to God of Israel, to see if he will take off his hand from you, and from your gods, and from your land. Okay, so there's the story in the Old Testament. We have some points I'll just bring about that I want to highlight in church history. That little Samuel was woken up in the middle of the night. He gave Samuel a message that he was going to overturn and cast down the house of Eli from its high priesthood position. And then, I didn't mention this part, and I should have. I forgot to. Okay, I forgot to say that part. But so when Eli got word that the ark was taken in battle and his sons were killed in that same battle, he was sitting on a wall on like a stool or a chair. And then when he heard the bad news, he fell backwards and he broke his neck and died. And then therefore is God's fulfillment of his promise to overturn the house of Eli, because Eli died and his sons died, so therefore his house is finished. But that chair or that stool that he was sitting in seems to be significant in church history. Okay, two more. The ark goes about causing plagues wherever it goes. It's carried from city to city in Philistia, causing plagues. And then finally, they cast little metal images of the plagues they received, and they gave those images along with the ark back to the Israelites. All right. Now, in church history, I don't have quotes from this because I think it's pretty widely known. I do actually have a little bit of a quote here of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal. She appeared in the year 1830 to St. Catherine de Laboure. Now, St. Catherine was a nun or a sister in the convent of the Order of St. Vincent de Paul, which must have been just newly founded at that time in 1830. In the middle of the night, St. Catherine was sleeping like everyone else was, and a little boy, I think she said maybe 5 years old or around that age, he called her and said, Catherine, Our Lady's waiting for you in the chapel. So here you have a little boy. Now, St. Catherine says at some point that she believes that was her guardian angel, which is a totally a good assumption to make. That's what I would probably think too. But in light of these parallels, I just have to wonder if that wasn't Samuel who woke her up. And so she woke up in the middle of the night and she went to the chapel, and there she found the candles were all lit and ready for Mass, I believe, or as if Mass would have. The candles were all lit, I should say that. So Our Lady appeared to her, and I think St. Catherine said she first heard the swoosh of a dress of her garments, and she turned around and Our Lady was there. And Our Lady went and she sat in the priest chair, I think on the altar, or it must have been on the altar. So St. Catherine knelt beside Our Lady, who was sitting down in the priest chair, and that's how they had their discussion. Now, one of the things that Our Lady said, I'll just quote. I found this on a reputable Catholic site. I have no reason. It's so hard to trust anything anymore. But I guess I'll leave it to you to critique the actual quotes from Our Lady here. But I've heard this before many times, and I actually, my wife and I did go to Rue de Bac as well, and this resonates with what we heard from the Apparition site itself. I think it's fine, but if there's any mistakes in this quote from Our Lady, let me know. But this is what I found through my research online. It says, Our Lady said this to St. Catherine: "My child, the cross of Jesus will be hated. Many priests will be put to death. The archbishop will die. The streets will run with blood. My child, the whole world will be filled with trouble and sorrow. My child, the good God wishes to give you a mission. Later I shall let you know what that is. You will have much to suffer. Do not be afraid. The days are evil. Terrible things are going to happen in France. The king's throne will be overturned. The whole world will be filled with trouble of every kind, but come to the foot of the altar often. Here, many graces shall be given to everyone who asks for them. They will be given to the rich and to the poor, to the great and the lowly." And so one of the main points I take out of that is the overturning of the throne of the king in France. Now, the king was overthrown in the French Revolution in 98 or 89. He was I think he was killed in 1792 or 93. Can't remember exactly which one. And then the Republic was established, but then there was for a brief time the monarchy was brought back in a limited capacity. They were called citizen kings, and they had very limited power. And so it is one of those kings that Our Lady's talking about here in 1830. And of course, then France is a republic today. There's no monarchy. So those limited kings were overthrown, and this is when that would have happened in 1830 or shortly following. Okay, so then also, of course, how can we, all of us know that Our Lady gave to St. Catherine the Miraculous Medal. She showed her a vision of the front and the back of the medal, and told her to have it propagated or cast into metal and then spread and propagate it. And so very shortly after Our Lady's apparitions ended, St. Catherine did do that. She presented the work to a priest who approved it, and then they started to work to cast these little medals, these little medals of Our Lady. At first, they were not called the Miraculous Medal. That was a name that was given to them, kind of a popular acclaim, because as these medals were spread out, first through the immediate area of France and afterwards to the whole world, they caused healings and blessings wherever they went. There were miracles associated with these blessings. So let me draw the parallels here between those two stories, because I think they're amazing. So first of all, of course, St. Catherine was woken up in the middle of the night, and so was Samuel. Samuel was sleeping beside the ark when it happened, and St. Catherine de Laboure was told to wake up in the middle of the night and go see the new ark. There was both a message of dissatisfaction and the overturning of an established authority. God told Samuel that he was going to overturn the house of Eli, which happened. And he also said that I will do a thing in Israel and everyone's ears will tingle. They're going to be amazed when they see what happens. And that does resonate with Our Lady's message about how great or horrible things were going to happen in France. There was going to be bloodshed and the death of the archbishop, and other times she says the days are evil. Terrible things are going to happen in France. So it does seem like the same kind of things that our Lord was warning Samuel about, because indeed, after the ark was stolen, a great sadness and I guess not a depression, but a great sadness fell upon the Israelites. They lost their high priest and they lost the ark. Okay, another set of parallels, amazingly, is that priest chair. There's Samuel sitting on the wall on his stool or his chair, and then Our Lady specifically, she didn't need to sit down. She wasn't tired, but she chose to sit down in the priest chair for whatever reason. It seems to me there's a message there. I mean, how can everything that heaven does specifically and intentionally, which is everything, heaven does everything intentionally, how can that have some kind of meaning? Especially those kind of like sign acts, or like those kind of, those actions, those visible actions. So I take that to, take it or leave it. But there's the priest chair. Okay, now this one, amazingly, is the ark. The ark goes around. So in the Old Testament, the ark was taken around Philistia, causing plagues and curses wherever it went. And in church history, the new ark is cast in metal, the miraculous metal, then it circulates throughout France. It propagates, and more people are receiving these medals. And of course, healings and blessings accompany it wherever it goes. So in the Old Testament, there's plagues and curses. But in church history, there's great healings, blessings, and miracles, because the new ark is Our Lady, and she's filled with mercy and love. Thank God. And then finally, there's the aspect of the being cast in metal. Very strangely and uniquely, the Philistines chose to make little metal images of the curses they received. So they made, I don't know how you would do this, but they made metal images of hemorrhoids and also of the mice they received. And then in church history, of course, what's cast in metal is the miraculous metal. Okay, so, I mean, those set of coincidences aren't coincidences, but those set of circumstances are just too many to be overlooked in my mind, specifically because the other apparitions of Our Lady have a whole other unique set of circumstances that parallel very specific events in another Old Testament story about the ark. And maybe next Monday we'll do Our Lady of Guadalupe and the blooming of the flowers overnight before the ark, and then the story of the ark in the Old Testament where Aaron's rod blooms flowers miraculously before the ark. And there's other events and circumstances around those two stories that also parallel. Okay, great. So that's all for today and this week, and I'll see you next week. So glory be to God, and Ave Maria in her month of May. All right, everyone, have a good week.